Hey guys, it's Becca. This week I am going to share a project that I have been working on for the last 2 weeks. I had intended that it was only going to take 1 week, but lo and behold, surprise, surprise, it took longer than expected. I decided that I would illustrate one animal for every letter of the alphabet, and the goal of this project was to really push my creativity in how I colored and how I rendered digitally. I don't have a lot of experience working in color, especially not digitally, so I have been feeling this desire to kind of explore and be creative and push myself to come up with different ways to render. Of course, it's really important to do photorealistic studies. I've done a lot of them. You can learn a ton from them, but for me, I'm finding myself drawn in a more playful direction, and I want my illustrations to feel like they're more unique to me and less photorealistic. So this project was meant for me to really push myself in that direction. I picked animals because A, obviously I love drawing them. They're like probably my favorite thing to draw. And B, I'm actually, at this point, I have enough experience that I don't have to think so much when I draw them. So for this project, it was perfect because it meant that I didn't get bogged down in all the technical parts of drawing. That part wasn't frustrating to me, so I could really focus on the coloring and I could really put all my creative energy into that part of the project. And lastly, see, they have a lot of variety. They have a lot of variety in shape and texture, so it meant that I could kind of test out a different technique or a different process and see if it worked across the board. So if it worked both for feathers and fur and scales. And that meant that, maybe that style was something, or that technique was something that I could use for a bigger illustration, and it wasn't just limited to one usage scenario. With every animal that I drew, I tried to push myself in some way to kind of change up my process. So maybe I would use a different brush, or I tried out using blending modes, or different techniques for inking, different techniques for outlining, different widths of outlines. I mean, I tried everything I could think of just to keep pushing myself to see what I could come up with. And the ultimate goal is that I can kind of pull some of these techniques, I can see what I like and what I don't like, and then I can use these techniques on illustration projects in the future. Probably the hardest part about this was not spending a lot of time in the drawing phase. Now that I have more experience drawing, and especially more experience with character design, I knew that there was so much potential and so much possibility for each of these animals, how you can change the proportions, how you can change the shape language and the body language and all of those things. It was almost impossible for me to not stylize them a little bit, but I knew I had to stay on track because I was aiming to work on color and rendering. So that was the goal of this. So while it kind of broke my heart, the drawings are a little simple, they're a little boring. They're basically representations of the photographs. And in the future, I'm definitely going to combine these two things, but for this project, it was pretty cut and dry, basic drawing and then experimentation with color. Part of the reason that this project took longer than I expected was because a lot of my experiments did not work, so I had to redo some of the animals 2 or even 3 times because I just couldn't get them to look right. Maybe the brush wasn't really working how I wanted it to, or maybe I didn't like how the outlining turned out. So while it took longer, it also meant on the bright side that I was really learning a lot because, as we know, the more you fail, the more you learn. So I feel like after going through 26 different animals, some of them multiple times, I have a much, much better grasp on coloring. I feel more confident rendering on my iPad in general. I just feel more excited about working digitally, and that was the goal. So I'm really happy that after all this work, I do feel like I have learned something and I've got some takeaways from this that I can use on my future illustrations. Okay guys, let me know which ones you like the best, and on to the animals.